I never imagined that a courtesy visit to my son-in-law could completely destroy the life I had known for 15 years. Before I continue with this story that will turn your perception of trust upside down, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our true stories. You won't believe what happened after I saw that familiar car parked where it should never have been. My name is Robert. I'm 52 years old, and until 3 months ago, I was certain I knew my family inside and out. I'd been married to Helen for 15 years, and we had a daughter, Maria, who was 22 and had married Dylan 2 years ago. I've always been a successful businessman, the owner of a small chain of auto parts stores. I've been a hard worker since I was 16, and I was proud to have built a stable life for my loved ones. Dylan seemed to be the perfect son-in-law. He had an engineering degree, was polite, respectful, and genuinely in love with my daughter. When they got married, Helen and I made a point of helping the young couple get started. We helped with the down payment on their apartment, furnished it completely, and I even offered Dylan a job at my company, even though his degree was in another field. I wanted him to have time to get established in his career. Helen had always been a present wife. She worked as a preschool teacher, had her own social circles, her friends from yoga, and her book club. Our marriage wasn't perfect, what marriage is, but we had a comfortable routine, respected each other's space, and I genuinely believed we were happy. She was always more reserved than I was, more introspective, but I interpreted that as emotional maturity. Maria and Dylan lived about 20 minutes from our house, in a young, bustling neighborhood. I had a habit of stopping by from time to time, especially after work, to see how they were adjusting to married life. I never called ahead. After all, they were family, right? Sometimes I'd bring over something left from a promotion at the store. Other times I just wanted to chat with Dylan about work. It was a Tuesday in March, around 6 in the evening. I had left the main store early because a problem with a supplier had been resolved faster than I expected. Helen was at home, making dinner. At least, that's what she told me when I called to let her know I'd be stopping by the kids' apartment before heading home. "Good idea," she said, with that same affectionate voice she always used. "Take those brownies I made yesterday. Maria loves them." I grabbed the container of brownies, got in my car, and followed the familiar route. I was listening to a business management podcast, thinking about the budget for the next quarter, completely carefree. Life was proceeding as normal. When I turned onto their street, I saw something that shouldn't have been there. Helen's silver Honda Civic, with that small scuff on the back door, she always promised to get fixed, but never found the time for. It was parked 2 houses down from Maria and Dylan's building, half hidden behind a delivery van. My first thought was confusion. Helen had said she was at home making dinner. Why would she be here? Had Maria asked her for help with something and she forgot to tell me? Or maybe it was some kind of emergency. I parked in a visitor spot for the building and called her. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. A strange feeling started to grow in my chest, like an itch you can't scratch. I went up to the apartment and rang the doorbell. Nothing. I rang it again, more insistently. Total silence. I took out the spare key they had given me, for emergencies, Maria always said, and opened the door. "Maria? Dylan? It's me, Dad." The apartment was quiet, but there was something different in the air. A scent I knew well, but one that shouldn't have been there at this time of day. Helen's perfume, that French one I'd bought for her last anniversary. I walked through the living room, taking everything in. The sofa cushions were out of place. There were 2 coffee cups on the coffee table, still with lukewarm dregs inside. In the kitchen, I found an open bottle of wine and 2 dirty glasses in the sink. My heart started to beat faster. Something was definitely not right. That's when I heard a noise from the master bedroom, a low murmur, like voices trying to keep a secret. I walked slowly down the hallway, my steps muffled by the rug I had picked out myself at the decor store months ago. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, and then I saw it. Helen was sitting on the bed, her back to me, wearing only a t-shirt I recognized as Dylan's. She was speaking softly, with that intimate voice I knew so well. "We need to be more careful. Robert's getting suspicious. Yesterday he asked why I've been going out so much lately." Dylan was standing beside the bed, shirtless, running a hand through his hair nervously. "Helen, This is becoming unsustainable. I feel terrible cheating on Maria like this, and you're cheating on Robert, who's been nothing but good to me from day one. Don't make this complicated, Dylan. We've talked about this. What I feel for you is real. What I felt for Robert, that died a long time ago. I'm just waiting for the right time to ask for a divorce. And Maria, how do you think she's going to react when she finds out her husband is having an affair with her own mother? Maria will get over it. She's young. She'll find someone else. We've already wasted so much time pretending to be happy in marriages that don't work anymore. I felt the world crumble beneath my feet. My wife, with whom I had shared a bed for 15 years, was there, half naked, planning my future as if I were an obstacle to be removed. And my son-in-law, the young man I treated like a son, who worked at my company, whom I had helped start his adult life, was betraying my daughter in the cruelest way possible. Dylan turned slightly, and I could see the conflict on his face. Helen, I don't know if I can keep lying to him every day at work. Robert treats me like a son. He trusts me completely. That's exactly why you need to keep acting normal. In a few months, when I'm separated, we can go public with our relationship naturally. We'll say it started after the divorce, that we supported each other through a difficult time. And the job? Robert will fire me the second he finds out. Dylan, you have an engineering degree. You'll get another job easily. We could even move to another city, start a new life away from all this mess. Mess. That's what she called our family, our marriage, our daughter. I was paralyzed, gripping the doorknob so tightly my knuckles were white. 15 years of marriage, 2 decades of knowing this woman, and I had no idea who she really was. Helen got up from the bed and walked to the window. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if we had met sooner. If I hadn't married Robert so young, if you hadn't gotten involved with Maria. Helen, stop. We can't fantasize about that. The reality is we're hurting people we love. Do you love Maria? The question came out of her mouth with a coldness that chilled me to the bone. Dylan was silent for a long moment. I care about her a lot. She's a good person. But what I feel for you is different. It's more intense, more real. Then you have your answer. We don't choose who we fall in love with, Dylan. It happened, and that's that. Now we have to deal with the consequences as maturely as possible. Maturely. My wife was calling the act of destroying 2 families mature. It was at that moment that my phone rang loudly from inside my pocket. They both spun around toward the door. I saw the terror in Helen's eyes when she saw me standing there, holding the apartment key. Robert! She tried to cover herself with the sheet, but it was too late. I'd already seen everything, heard everything. Dylan went as white as a sheet. Robert, we can explain. Explain. My voice came out strange, as if it belonged to someone else. You're going to explain how my wife is in my son-in-law's bed planning my divorce while my daughter is probably on her way home from work thinking she has a happy family waiting for her. Helen got up, trying to regain some control of the situation. Robert, please, let's talk calmly. Let me get dressed and we can... Talk? I started to laugh, but it was a bitter, humorless laugh. Helen, I just heard you 2 planning my future as if I were a piece of old furniture you wanted to get rid of. What kind of conversation do you think we can have now? Dylan had pulled on a pair of shorts and was trying to approach me. Robert, I know this looks terrible, but we didn't plan for this to happen. It was what, Dylan? Was it love? Was it destiny? Was it some mystical force that forced you to cheat on my daughter with her mother? My voice was rising, and I could feel the rage building inside me like a red tide. You were the one who always said family is sacred, weren't you? You were the one who asked me to treat you like a son, right? And is this how a son repays that? By screwing the father's wife and planning to destroy the entire family? Helen had quickly dressed and was trying to position herself between me and Dylan. Robert, don't talk to him like that. You don't have the right to... I don't have the right! I exploded. Helen, you're in the house I helped buy, sleeping in the bed I paid for, betraying the trust of people who have only been good to you, and I don't have the right to be pissed off. Dad? Maria's voice came from the living room. My heart stopped. Dad, are you here? I saw your car downstairs. Why are you yelling?" The three of us looked at each other in total panic. Maria wasn't supposed to get home before 7. Dylan glanced at the clock on the wall. 6:45. "Maria!" Dylan rushed into the living room, trying to intercept her before she reached the bedroom. "Dylan, why are you shirtless? And why does it smell like—" Maria stopped talking. I saw the exact moment she recognized her mother's perfume. Helen came out of the bedroom trying to look casual, but her clothes were clearly disheveled, her hair a mess. "Mom?" Maria looked from Helen to Dylan, then to me. "Mom, what are you doing here? Didn't you say you were at home making dinner?" "Maria? Honey? I can explain." Helen tried to approach her, but Maria backed away. "Explain what? Why do you both look like you just got caught doing something wrong? Why is Dylan shirtless and your hair is all messed up?" Maria wasn't stupid. She had inherited my business intuition and her mother's intelligence. I saw in her eyes the moment all the pieces clicked into place. "Number." She shook her head, backing away further. "No, no, no. You did not do this to me." "Maria, let me explain." Dylan tried to get closer, but she pushed him away forcefully. "Don't touch me!" She screamed with an intensity I had never seen in her. "Don't touch me, you disgusting pig!" Helen started to cry. "Maria, please. You need to understand." "Understand what, Mom? Understand that you're sleeping with my husband. Understand that you two were in here, in my bed, while I was at work, thinking I had a family that loved me?" Maria turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "Dad, please, tell me you didn't know about this. Tell me you weren't covering for this disgusting thing." "Maria, honey, I just found out myself. I came to visit you guys, and you caught them in the act." She finished the sentence with a hysterical laugh. "My God, what a pathetic family we are." Dylan tried one more time. "Maria, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but you need to know that—" "That what?" Maria turned on him with a fury I never imagined my daughter possessed. "That you love me? That it was a mistake? That I wasn't supposed to find out this way? Or are you going to tell me you fell madly in love and that love is stronger than anything?" She was being sarcastic, cruel. "Is that the story you're going to tell me?" Helen approached again. "Maria, I know this is hard to understand, but—" "Mom!" Maria yelled again. "Are you trying to explain to me why you decided to sleep with my husband? Seriously, is there any explanation in the world that could justify this? You're my mother. You're supposed to protect me, to love me, to be on my side. And you did the worst thing a mother could possibly do to her daughter." Maria turned to Dylan. "And you promised to love me in front of God, our family, our friends. You promised to protect me, to honor me, and you betrayed me in the most disgusting way possible, with my own mother." She started to pull the wedding ring off her finger, her hands shaking with rage. "Here, take your ring back. I can't even look at your face." She threw the ring on the floor, where it rolled to a stop under the sofa. "Maria, stop, please." Dylan was crying now. "We can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can talk." "Fix this?" Maria was incredulous. "Dylan, do you think there's any therapy in the world that will make me forget that you were sleeping with my mother? That you were in here planning to get rid of my dad as if he were garbage?" She turned to Helen. "And you, Mom, do you think I'll ever be able to forgive you? Do you think we're going to sit down for Sunday dinner and pretend everything is fine? Maria, you don't understand." Helen tried one last time. "I understand perfectly," Maria screamed. "You are two selfish, disgusting people who decided to crap all over everyone's lives because you found each other. Congratulations! Now you can be together and live happily ever after." Maria grabbed her purse and walked toward the door. "Maria, where are you going?" I asked, worried. "Away from here, Dad. Away from all three of you. Maria, you don't have to leave your home." "They're the ones who have to leave," I said, looking pointedly at Dylan and Helen. "No, Dad, I can't stay here right now. I need to process this alone." She opened the door and turned around one last time. "Dylan, I want you out of this house by tomorrow morning. Take your things and go. And Mom." She looked at Helen with a coldness that sent a shiver down my spine. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive you for this. and then she was gone, slamming the door so hard that the pictures on the wall trembled. The silence that filled the apartment was deafening. Dylan was sitting on the sofa, his head in his hands. Helen was leaning against the wall, crying silently. And I was there, in the middle of this chaos, trying to process the fact that my life had just completely fallen apart. "Robert," Helen tried to speak to me. I held up my hand. "Don't say anything right now, Helen. Absolutely nothing." I turned to Dylan. "You have until tomorrow to get out of this apartment, and don't show up at my work on Monday. You're fired. Robert, please." "And Dylan," I cut him off. "If I were you, I'd find a lawyer, because Maria is going to want a divorce, and I'm going to make sure she has the best legal representation possible." I picked up the apartment keys from the coffee table and put them in my pocket. "These keys stay with me. You've lost the right to have access to my daughter's life." Helen approached me. "Robert, we need to talk about us, about our marriage." "Our marriage?" I looked at her with disbelief. "Helen, there is no our marriage anymore. It ended the moment you decided to sleep with our daughter's husband. When you get home tonight, I won't be there. I'm going to a hotel until I decide what to do. And tomorrow morning, I'm calling my lawyer." Helen started to cry harder. "Robert, please don't do this. We can try to work it out." "Work it out, Helen? How do you suggest we do that? Couples counseling? Are we going to pretend I didn't just see you planning my divorce while you were sleeping with our son-in-law?" I walked toward the door. "You got what you wanted. You destroyed 2 families, hurt the people who loved you, and now you can be together. Congratulations." I opened the door and turned back one last time. "Oh, and Helen? Those brownies you told me to bring for Maria? They're on the kitchen counter. You two can eat them together to celebrate your new life." I left the apartment and rode the elevator down in a state of total shock. When I got to the parking lot, I saw that Helen's car was gone. She had managed to leave without me seeing her. I got into my car and just sat there for a long time, trying to process everything that had just happened. An hour ago, I was a married man, a father to a happy daughter, a father-in-law to a young man I considered a son. Now I was alone, betrayed, and watching my family disintegrate before my eyes. I called Maria, but it went straight to voicemail. I sent a text. "Honey, I'm here for you. Whenever you want to talk, just call me. I love you." I got home to an empty house. Helen had collected some of her clothes and disappeared. She left a note on the kitchen table. "Robert, I'm sorry. I never wanted you to find out this way. We need to talk. I'll call you tomorrow." I crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced around the house, looking at the family portraits on the walls, at the objects that told the story of our marriage. Everything seemed fake now, as if my entire life had been an elaborate lie. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Dr. Harrison, an old friend from college. "Robert, what a surprise." "How are you?" "Henry, I need your help. I want a divorce, and it's complicated." I told him the whole story. Henry listened in silence, taking notes. "Robert, this is truly awful. I'm so sorry you're going through this. But from a legal standpoint, you're in a very strong position." "How so?" "Adultery is grounds for a fault-based divorce, and considering your wife was having a relationship with your son-in-law in an apartment you helped finance with someone who worked for your company, that could be considered an aggravating factor." "Henry, I don't want to destroy anyone. I just want to get separated and protect my daughter." "I understand. But Robert, you also need to think about your assets. You built your business over decades. You need to ensure you keep what is rightfully yours." Henry explained the whole legal process. Helen would be entitled to half the assets acquired during the marriage, but the adultery could influence the division. And since I had proof of the affair, I had accidentally recorded part of their conversation on my phone. My position was strong. "You recorded them talking?" "By accident. When my phone rang in the apartment, I must have hit the audio record button instead of the one to silence it. It recorded about 5 minutes of their conversation." "Robert, that's gold. With that recording, we can prove not only the adultery, but also that they had been planning the divorce for some time. It shows premeditation." "But what about Maria? What's her situation?" "Your daughter is also in a favorable position for her divorce. Adultery, especially with a mother-in-law, is more than sufficient grounds, and considering you helped finance the apartment and furniture, she may be entitled to compensation. Over the next few days, Maria stayed at my sister Carla's house. I gave her space but sent daily texts asking how she was doing. A week after it happened, she finally called me. "Dad? Maria? Honey, how are you?" I don't know how I am, Dad. I can't believe this happened. Honey, where are you? Do you want me to come get you? I'm still at Aunt Carla's. Dad, I need to tell you something. My heart sped up. What is it, honey? I hired a private investigator. You what? After I left the apartment that day, I started thinking, there's no way this just started out of nowhere, you know? There had to have been signs I missed. Maria told me she had hired an investigator to find out how long Helen and Dylan had been having the affair. And what did you find out? Dad, she took a long pause. It's been 8 months. 8 months. Helen had been cheating on me for 8 months, sleeping in my bed, sharing meals with me, planning family trips, all while carrying on a relationship with Dylan. There's more, Dad. They were meeting regularly at a motel on the south side. The investigator got photos, credit card receipts of Dylan paying for the room, text messages. Maria, you don't have to tell me these details. Yes, I do, Dad, because we need to know the whole truth. They didn't just suddenly fall in love. This was premeditated, planned. They had been deceiving me for 8 months. Maria started to cry. Dad, I feel so stupid. How did I not notice? How did I not see that my husband was different, that my own mother was being strange? Honey, don't blame yourself. They are 2 adults who chose to deceive you. There was no way for you to know. Yes, there was, Dad. For the last few months, Dylan was different, less affectionate, more distant. He always made excuses not to have sex with me, said he was tired from work, stressed about God knows what. And Mom was strange too, always going out, always with excuses not to have lunch with me on the weekends. She'd say she was taking this class, that course. Maria stopped crying, and her voice grew firm. Dad, I want them to pay for this. I want them to be completely screwed. I had never heard my daughter speak like that with so much anger. But I understood her perfectly. Maria, calm down. We're going to do everything by the book, legally. No, Dad, you don't understand. I found out other things too. What things? Dylan has been using money from your company to pay for his dates with Mom. The investigator tracked the expenses on the corporate card you gave him. The motel, expensive restaurants, even a weekend trip down the coast last month that they took when you were in Chicago on business. A rage grew inside me like nothing I had ever felt in my life. Dylan wasn't just cheating on my daughter with my wife. He was using my company's money to finance the betrayal. Maria, do you have proof of this? I have everything, Dad. The investigator did a thorough job. We have photos, financial records, hotel registrations, WhatsApp messages he managed to recover. How did he get the messages? Dylan is an idiot, Dad. He was backing up his conversations to your company's Google Drive. The investigator got access through the IT department. Maria was right about one thing. Dylan really was an idiot. Honey, we need to take all of this to the lawyers. I already did, Dad. I hired the same firm as you. Dr. Harrison referred me to a lawyer specializing in divorce, a woman named Patricia. In the following days, my life became a legal roller coaster. With all the evidence Maria had gathered, both my divorce and hers became very clear-cut cases of adultery with aggravating factors. Helen tried to call me several times, but I didn't answer. She even showed up at the store, but I asked security not to let her in. Finally, she sent me a long text message, trying to explain herself. Robert, I know you're angry, and I understand. But you need to know that what happened between me and Dylan wasn't planned. We got close when you were traveling so much for work, and it just happened. I never wanted to hurt you. That was never my intention. I still care about you, but what I feel for Dylan is different. It's stronger. I know this seems terrible now, but in time you'll understand that sometimes love happens in unexpected ways. I wanted to tell you everything in a more delicate way, not for you to find out like this. Can't we talk like civilized adults? We can separate amicably, without fighting, for Maria's sake. She'll get over this, and in the future, maybe she'll even understand that sometimes people fall in love even when they're in other situations. I hope you can forgive me one day, because despite everything, you were an important part of my life." When I finished reading it, I was stunned by Helen's ability to play the victim. She had destroyed 2 families, betrayed the trust of everyone around her, and yet she managed to write as if it were just a matter of unexpected love. I showed the message to Dr. Harrison, who laughed bitterly. "Robert, she's trying to manipulate you into accepting an uncontested divorce. Her lawyer probably advised her to approach you this way, to prevent you from using all the evidence against her. And what do you think I should do? I think you should make it clear that no amicable conversation is possible. She betrayed you in the worst way imaginable, using your company's resources, lying for 8 months, and on top of it all, she wants you to be civilized about it." I replied to Helen directly. "Helen, there is no amicable conversation to be had about betrayal. My lawyer will be in contact with yours." Dylan also tried to reach me. He showed up at my front door on a Saturday morning, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Robert, please, just give me 5 minutes to talk." I opened the door but didn't invite him in. "What is it, Dylan? I know there's no excuse for what I did. I know I betrayed your trust, I betrayed Maria, and I misused company funds, but I need you to know that I never wanted things to get to this point." "To what point, Dylan? The point where you got caught? Or the point where you destroyed 2 families? Robert, I fell in love with Helen. I know that sounds terrible, but that's what happened. And she fell in love with me too. We tried to resist, but you didn't try very hard, did you? 8 months, Dylan. For 8 months you deceived me. You deceived Maria. You used my money to finance this betrayal." Dylan lowered his head. "I know, and I'm sorry for how things happened. But Robert, what I feel for Helen is real. It's not an adventure. It's not just lust. It's real love. Dylan, do you think I care whether you love each other or not? You could have talked to me and Maria before you started lying. You could have asked for divorces, separated, and then pursued a relationship. But you chose the path of betrayal, lies, and deceit. Now you have to live with the consequences." Dylan tried one more time. "Robert, I know I've lost the right to ask for anything, but can't you have some mercy on me? I've lost everything. I lost Maria, I lost my job, I lost your trust. I have nowhere to go. Dylan, you should have thought about that before you slept with my wife, and about the company money. I can pay it all back. I have an emergency fund. I can pay back every cent I spent. It's not just about the money, Dylan. It's about character. I trusted you like you were my own son, and you stabbed me in the back." Dylan started to cry. "Robert, I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking for your forgiveness from the bottom of my heart." I looked at this man crying on my doorstep, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not pity, not satisfaction, just a void. "Dylan, I can't forgive you right now. Maybe one day in the future I'll be able to, but not today. And as for Helen, you two can be together, get married, be happy. I won't stand in your way, but you're going to have to rebuild your lives far away from my family." I closed the door and went back inside. A week later, I got an unexpected call. It was Maria. "Dad, can you come pick me up at the police station?" "The police station? What are you doing at the police station?" I filed a police report against Dylan for embezzlement and against Mom for misuse of personal information. When I got to the station, Maria was sitting in the reception area, filling out some forms. She had a determined expression I had never seen on her before. "Maria, what's this about a police report?" "Dad, I've thought a lot about all of this, and I've come to the conclusion that a divorce isn't enough. They committed crimes." "What crimes?" "Dylan used your company's corporate card for personal expenses. That's embezzlement. And Mom accessed my personal data on the home computer to pass information to him. That's an invasion of privacy." Maria showed me a folder of documents. "Remember a few months ago I was worried because someone was trying to access my bank account? And I thought it was some hacker? I remember. It was Mom. She used my personal information to find out my routine, my work schedule, to know when I wouldn't be home. and she passed all of it to Dylan. I was stunned by the level of planning Helen and Dylan had put into their affair. Maria, are you sure you want to take this to the criminal level? I'm sure, Dad. They don't deserve to get away with this. They destroyed our family in a premeditated, calculated way. Now they're going to have to answer for it criminally as well. In the months that followed, my life became a series of hearings, meetings with lawyers and legal paperwork. But slowly, I began to see justice being served. Dylan was fired for cause, lost any right to severance, and had to pay back the money he had misappropriated. On top of that, he was criminally prosecuted and ended up being sentenced to 2 years of probation, community service, and a hefty fine. Helen lost half of the assets she expected to receive in the divorce due to the proof of adultery, and she was also convicted of invasion of privacy, receiving a sentence of 1 year of community service. Maria was able to get an annulment on the grounds of adultery and kept the apartment, since we were able to prove that Dylan had used illicit funds to contribute to the financing. But the biggest victory wasn't legal, it was personal. 6 months after it all began, Maria moved back home. She had grown so much stronger throughout the whole process. She went back to school, started an MBA, and was planning to open her own business. Dad, I want to thank you. Thank me for what, honey? For showing me that we don't have to accept being treated like garbage by people who are supposed to love us. Honey, you don't have to thank me for that. Yes, I do. Because if you had chosen to let it go, to keep the family together, to talk civilly, you would have taught me that betrayal is acceptable, that disrespect is normal. Maria sat down next to me on the sofa. But you showed me that we have the right to defend ourselves, to seek justice, to refuse to be humiliated. And you know what else, Dad? I found out I'm much stronger than I ever imagined. I looked at my daughter and felt immense pride. She had emerged from that terrible situation as a more mature, more confident, more determined person. And you, Dad? How are you doing? It was a good question. How was I doing? Honey, I'll be honest with you. The first few months were terrible. I felt betrayed, humiliated, used. I questioned everything in my life, all of my decisions. But you know what I discovered? That I'm not responsible for the choices other people make. I was a good husband to your mother. I was a good boss to Dylan. I was a good father to you. If they chose to betray me, that says more about their character than it does about mine. Maria smiled. So now what? Are you thinking about meeting someone new? I laughed. Honey, I'm 52 years old. I'm in no rush for anything. I'm learning to enjoy my own company, to travel alone, to make decisions thinking only about myself, and you know what? I'm enjoying it. 3 months later, we had an unexpected visitor. Helen showed up at our door, alone. Robert, Maria, can you give me a few minutes? Maria looked at me, and I nodded for her to let Helen in. What are you doing here, Helen? Maria asked, not hiding her hostility. I came to apologize to both of you. Helen looked different, thinner, with the look of someone who hadn't been sleeping well for months. I know that an apology doesn't change anything that happened, but I needed to come here and take full responsibility for what I did. She turned to Maria. Maria, I destroyed your family. I betrayed you in the worst way possible. There is no excuse for what I did. I was selfish, cruel, and cowardly. And you, Robert, you were only good to me all those years. You gave me a family. You respected me. You treated me as an equal. And I repaid you with betrayal and lies. Helen started to cry. I lost everything. I lost my marriage. I lost my daughter. I lost my reputation. I lost my friends. And the worst part is, I deserve to have lost it all. And Dylan? Maria asked. It's over, Helen answered without hesitation. We broke up 2 months ago. Why? Because when you build a relationship on a foundation of betrayal and lies, you're always going to be afraid that the other person will do the same thing to you. Helen explained that she and Dylan were never able to be happy together. The guilt, the judgment from others, the legal pressure, it had all undermined their relationship. Besides, I realized that what I felt for Dylan wasn't love. It was excitement, the adrenaline rush of doing something forbidden. Once it became public, once it became real, there was nothing left. Helen, I said, why are you telling us this? Because I want you to know that you were right not to forgive me. You were right to sue me, to seek justice. I needed to learn that actions have consequences. Helen stood up to leave. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I want you to forgive me. I'm asking for forgiveness because I needed to take responsibility for what I did. At the door, she turned one last time. Maria, I hope that one day you find someone who truly loves and respects you. You deserve that. And Robert, I hope you'll be happy. You're a good man and you deserve a life full of people who recognize your worth. After Helen left, Maria and I sat in silence for a long time. Dad, do you believe her? I believe she's sorry, yes. But being sorry doesn't change what she did. Do you feel like forgiving her? I thought about the question for a moment. Maria, I think forgiveness is a process, not a moment. Maybe one day I'll be able to forgive her completely. But today I feel peace. Peace? Peace because I know I did the right thing. I defended myself. I defended you. And I didn't let two people treat us like garbage. Maria smiled. I love you, Dad. I love you too, honey. 6 months later, my life had found a new equilibrium. My business was doing better than ever. Apparently, all the energy I had been spending trying to keep my marriage afloat could be redirected to my work. Maria was happy, pursuing her MBA and planning her own business. And I was discovering the pleasures of being a successful single man at 52. It was during one of these discoveries that I met Claudia. She was a lawyer, divorced, with a teenage son. We met at a business networking event, and what caught my attention about her wasn't just her beauty, which she had in spades, but the intelligent way she talked about business, about life, about relationships. Robert, can I ask you a personal question? She asked on our third date. Of course. Do you still hold a grudge against your ex-wife? It was a direct question that took me by surprise, but I liked her honesty. Claudia, I think grudge is too small a word to describe what I felt. It was more than a grudge. It was betrayal, humiliation, a loss of faith in humanity. And today I feel relief. Relief that I found out who she really was before I wasted any more years of my life with her. Claudia smiled. That's a very mature answer. Why? Because it shows you've processed the situation without becoming a bitter person. That's rare. Claudia told me that she had also gone through a betrayal in her previous marriage and that it had taken her years to be able to trust someone again. Robert, I'm going to be honest with you. I like you a lot, but I'm scared. Scared of what? Scared that deep down you haven't completely moved on from what happened and that I'll end up being some kind of emotional rebound. I understood her concern and I appreciated that she shared it with me. Claudia, I can promise you one thing. I'm not looking for someone to complete me, to heal my wounds, or to prove that I'm desirable. I'm fine on my own. Then why do you want to go out with me? Because you're interesting, smart, beautiful, and you make me laugh. Because I enjoy your company. Not because I need it, but because I choose it. That conversation marked the beginning of a relationship unlike anything I had ever experienced before. With Claudia, I wasn't in a hurry for anything. We had no plans to move in together, to get married, to merge our assets. We each maintained our independence, our homes, our lives, and we chose to share moments together, and it worked perfectly. A year after our first date, Maria officially met Claudia at a dinner at my house. Dad, I really liked her, Maria told me after Claudia had left. She's very different from Mom. In what way? She doesn't try to control you. She doesn't want to change anything about you. She likes you just the way you are. Maria was right. With Helen, I always felt like I had to be someone slightly different from who I really was. More romantic, more present, more attentive to the details she considered important. With Claudia, I could be completely myself. And you know what else I liked about her, Dad? What? She doesn't talk bad about Mom. She could have taken the opportunity to criticize her, to position herself as superior. But she doesn't do that. Maria was right. Claudia knew the whole story of my divorce, but she never made disparaging comments about Helen. She simply didn't engage with the topic. That shows emotional maturity, Maria continued. It shows she doesn't need to put another woman down to feel better about herself. 2 years after discovering the betrayal, my life had taken on a completely new and, surprisingly, better shape. My business had grown by 40%. Maria had opened her own digital marketing consulting firm and was doing very well. I was in a healthy relationship based on mutual respect and emotional independence. And most importantly, I had learned to value myself. Helen tried to contact me a few more times over those 2 years, always with some excuse, a document from the divorce, a forgotten memento at the house, some practical issue, but I knew she was actually testing the waters to see if there was any chance of reconciliation. The answer was always no. Not because I still felt angry with her. The anger had passed a long time ago, but because I had learned a fundamental lesson. When someone shows you who they really are, you should believe them. Helen had shown me that she was capable of lying for 8 months, of betraying her daughter's trust, of using my company's resources to finance her affair and then trying to play the victim. That wasn't a mistake, that was her character, and character doesn't change. Dylan tried to approach me only once during those 2 years. It was on a Friday afternoon as I was leaving work. He was waiting for me in the company parking lot. "Robert, can you spare 2 minutes?" He was visibly worn down, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes, looking like someone who was going through hard times. "Dylan, what do you want? I was wondering if you could give me a letter of recommendation. I've been looking for a job for a year and no one will hire me. When they do a reference check and find out I was fired for cause, they back out." I looked at Dylan and felt a mixture of disbelief and almost admiration for his audacity. "Dylan, are you asking me for a letter of recommendation after you slept with my wife and used my company's money to pay for your dates?" "Robert, I know it's a lot to ask, but I'm desperate. I can't find a job. I can't pay rent. I'm living at my mum's house at 28 years old, and Helen isn't helping you? Helen, we broke up a long time ago, and she's going through the same thing I am. No one wants to hire her either." Dylan started to cry. "Robert, I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging you. I need a chance." I stood there for a few seconds, watching this man cry in my parking lot, begging for help he definitely didn't deserve. "Dylan, I'm going to give you some free advice. Stop playing the victim. What do you mean? You're not unemployed because the market is cruel. You're unemployed because you committed a crime. You betrayed your employer's trust. You misused company resources. And on top of it all, you destroyed a family. The consequences you're facing aren't injustices. They are the results of your choices," Dylan tried to argue. "But Robert, everyone deserves a second chance. Dylan, you already had your second chance. I gave you a job when you were a recent graduate with no experience. I treated you like a son. I included you in my family. I trusted you completely. And how did you repay me? By sleeping with my wife and stealing from my company. So no, Dylan, you're not getting a third chance from me." I got in my car and drove away, leaving Dylan crying in the parking lot. When I told Maria this story, she laughed bitterly. "Dad, it's incredible how he still doesn't get that he created his own situation. How so? He thinks he's being punished unfairly. He doesn't understand that people don't want to hire him because he proved himself to be an untrustworthy person." Maria was right. Dylan and Helen seemed genuinely surprised by the fact that actions have lasting consequences. Today, 3 years after seeing Helen's car parked near Maria and Dylan's apartment, I can say that it was both the worst and the best day of my life. The worst because I discovered that the life I thought I had was a lie, that the woman I shared my bed with had been betraying me for 8 months, that the young man I treated like a son was stealing from me and humiliating me. But it was also the best day of my life because it was the day I decided I would not accept being treated like garbage. It was the day I learned that it's better to be alone than in bad company. It was the day I discovered that I am much stronger than I ever imagined. Today, at 55, I have a life that I have consciously built. I choose who I spend my time with. I choose where I invest my energy. I choose who has access to my inner life. Maria is happy, successful, and in a healthy relationship with a young man who genuinely respects her. She learned at a young age that she doesn't have to accept emotional crumbs from anyone. Claudia and I are still together, building a relationship based on mutual choice, not on need or dependency. My company has grown, my financial life is solid, and I sleep every night with the clear conscience of someone who did the right thing. Helen and Dylan, I honestly don't know how they are, and I don't care. They made their choices, and now they live with the consequences. The lesson I learned and want to leave with you is simple. When someone disrespects you, believe the disrespect, not the excuses. When someone betrays you, it's not about you, it's about their character. And when you value yourself, when you defend yourself, when you refuse to be treated like garbage, you're not being vengeful, you're being dignified. Sometimes people ask if I regret being so harsh with Helen and Dylan, if I couldn't have been more understanding, more mature. My answer is always the same. I was mature. Mature enough to understand that forgiving doesn't mean accepting, that having empathy doesn't mean being a fool, that being a good person doesn't mean being a doormat. Helen and Dylan chose to betray me in the cruelest way possible. I chose to defend myself in the most effective way possible. They reaped what they sowed, and so did I. The difference is that they sowed betrayal, lies, and disrespect. I sowed dignity, self-respect, and courage. And today, 3 years later, it's clear who made the right choice. If you've made it this far in the story, you've probably been through something similar, or you know someone who has. I want you to know that it is possible to rebuild your life after a devastating betrayal. It's possible to be happy again. It's possible to trust again. It's possible to love again. But all of that is only possible when you first learn to value yourself, when you understand that you deserve respect, honesty, and consideration, when you stop accepting emotional crumbs and start demanding the full banquet you deserve. If this story helped you in any way, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share in the comments how you've dealt with similar situations in your life. And remember, you are stronger than you imagine, more valuable than they think, and you deserve so much more than crumbs. Take care, and until the next story, the end of the story.